What's up, what's up? It's time for Done Way Past Funny with your host, G.D. Fenderson. Join us as we discuss the art, science, and business of comedy with comedians and comedian adjacent. With this episode's guest, Alan Katz. It's time to get down and get dope with Done Way Past Funny. Hi, I'm G.D. Fenderson, certified forensic chemist and host of Done Way Past Funny. This is the conclusion of our interview with Hollywood writer and producer Alan Katz. Enjoy. I know one of the best things, one of the most fun things I did when I was growing up was when someone was bigger than me and they'd pick on me and I'd insult them. And they didn't realize they were insulted for a few minutes after I'd left. I loved that. And to this day, I like telling jokes that I know aren't going to hit right now. And it'll hit them like 4, 3, 2. Oh, I love that.
Oh, a timed explosion. Oh, yeah. Oh, but those are always great gags too. When just give the audience a moment.
Yeah.
It's a little like Jack Benny, just holding that silence a little bit. I'm thinking about it.
Yes.
Your money or your life is the question that the mugger asks him. I told you, buddy, the money or your life. I'm thinking about it. It's just the longer he holds that, and then suddenly when you get to the punch, fucking genius.
I'm the comedy show that I'm currently working on now. One of my opening lines is, "I'm an only child now," and I give them a moment to let them think about that, and then I'll go ahead and expand upon it.
But that is one of the things that I think, as I was watching your stuff, that I fell head over heels in love with. It's that it's so smart, and you don't have to get all the references, but man, if you get half of what you're talking about, you're funny. But then it becomes transcended, because I found myself really seeing all the baggage and regarding it admiringly, thinking, wow, look at all you brought into this. Look at what you brought to the table here. Wow. Okay. Where are you going to go next, my friend? That was how my appreciation for your artistry, Glenn.
I appreciate that. I think there's a comedian of one of the guys who's at one of my shows. He watched, it was a 90-minute set, 90-minute one-man show. And when it was done, he walked up to me and he goes, "You are deceptively creative and hilarious." And I love that. He said deceptively creative, which I love that expression. And I said, "You mind if I use that quote in my," he goes, "Oh yeah, sure.
Yes, it's understated brilliance. It's in the way of a Bob Newhart. Bob Newhart had a lot of these qualities where, man, he would put you in the middle of a scene. Oh, I'm in a submarine. Am I? And wow. And each moment where the audience recognizes where they are, it becomes hilarious because of the recognition. How he's building the stage set around the audience is fantastic. Well,
one of my favorite bits of his is the driving instructor. That's one of my favorite bits of his, and that inspired me so much. If you're out there and you're not familiar with Bob Newhart, okay, I implore you to Google him and look up his student driver bit.
All right, Glenn, here's I'm about to propose something to you that I think you and I should do together, and it's, God, we're almost 2 hours in. I have to, I've got something at 2 o'clock I have to do, but I propose to you that we do a podcast together about a history of comedy. Just okay. story about all the things that make us laugh, but also a history of comedy. Where what is this comedy thing that we would, there's a history podcast I love called The Rest is History. It's the
Right.
most popular history podcast in England. It's huge. It's these two guys. They're both historians and really terrific writers. It's two English guys, just incredibly well researched, but just telling the stories about every possible history, every which way. And it's glorious. It's just two guys talking about these things that, all right, they love history, so they're both passionate about it. And as they learn more and more about it, their passion does not diminish one iota. I think the two of us talking about comedy would be, wow. Talk, just because I would say we've scratched the surface, but we scratched the surface of scratching the surface. I think you and I could walk through each Marx Brother movie, and that would be a
Oh,
master class in. I mean, and I think that would be an incredibly enjoyable experience. Doing it as that's the great thing about podcasting. We can do whatever the fuck we want. Oh, and we got
yeah.
to go find it. We got to go find an audience. But if we create something that we're super passionate about, and I think what you and I, what I'm pitching to you right here, right now, on both of our podcasts, is exactly in that territory, because you talking about comedy, me talking about comedy, in a way where we're both bringing something to a table, and then poking at it, as would be incredibly fun and revelatory for an audience. And
Sure. And even the comedy against what was going on in society at the time, because
that is the,
that makes
yes, it's always in context, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would leave it, even the comedy that we don't like. I'd say, well, let's put it on the table. Let's talk about why don't we like it? What and
Right.
let's really have a conversation about what's funny, and it's going to be a hilarious conversation, because yes, in theory, the thing about conversations about comedy is that they can become incredibly unfunny. Yes, that's possible if you overanalyze the. Yes, it's like uh, uh, forming. Yes, if the frog in the science room, once you start examining its guts, it kind of dies.
Hopefully he's dead before you started.
Hopefully, hopefully, but the comedy is probably going to be alive before we start. Beating the horse. Okay, it's dead. It's dead. Leave it alone. Walk away from the carcass. You're stripping it of it. Leave something for the flies, please. So I propose that this is the pilot, the proto pilot for something that you and I should do together in the very near future. We should at the very least have a conversation in the very near future about doing something like what I just suggested. We should give it form and shape. And I think we would see that this is a thing that we could do ad infinitum. Oh my gosh, there's so many people that I would love to have a conversation with you about the comedy, because this is an analytical conversation, but it's also an appreciative conversation. It's not merely academic.
Yeah.
It
I think
really is.
I think one of the things about comedy, or at least the premise of like my podcast, Done Way Past Funny, the premise is that you don't have to be a comedian to be in comedy, because not everybody can perform comedy. You could be a writer, you can be a producer, you can be an actor, you could be something other than a stand-up comedian. Because some people are funny, but they're using the wrong venue or the wrong medium to try to express it, and they fail at it because they found the wrong medium for something that they are very good at.
It's funny. I just, on the How Not to Make a Movie podcast, this last episode, I spoke with a magician named Wes Isley. And Wes is a terrific comedian. We have Penn and Teller in common.
Oh,
Wes
okay.
worked
Yes.
with Penn and Teller, and I worked with Penn and Teller. I developed a show for HBO that they never did with Teller. The I'll get this train of thought. Give me a second. Oh yes, Wes told an interesting story about. All right, I'm almost back to it. Wes told a story. Oh yes, about magicians, among magicians.
Mm-hmm.
The best magicians that other magicians hire when they have a magician's convention, it's just them.
All right.
The people they almost always hire are never professional magicians. It's a guy, he's a doctor, but he's amazing. He has no presence, he has no stage presence, but he's an amazing technical magician who does tricks. These people do tricks that overwhelm magicians, but they have no ability to perform on stage. And so they're exactly like what you're describing. These are master magicians. They're super funny people, but don't put them on stage.
Yeah.
They will not know what to do. You will think you don't know anything about being funny. You know anything about magic. You suck at it. I can see the sleight of hand. You're tripping. You're dropping everything all over the place, man. You look like you're not comfortable up there. Yes, some people are what I would are organically funny, which is how you started your life, organically funny. And hey, they have a sense of humor, and it's how they survive life. Because with one, I think it makes life harder, but you make it harder on everybody else. Actually, when you have no sense of humor, those people,
Now,
they're
there's something you and I have in common, and I think for you it actually comes from your faith, and I'm not going to quote it exactly because I would not do it justice. I will say it in my own vernacular. My philosophy is leave the world better than you found it. Your version is slightly different. It's see, and I can't do it. I can't say it correctly, but like I said, it's you go ahead. If you know what I'm talking
well,
about, go ahead.
yes. My little company, Costard and Touchstone Productions, which makes all my podcasts, basically just me. But we're on a mission to make the world a better place through storytelling.
Right.
That's my mission. That is based on a very old Jewish tradition called Tikkun Olam, which basically just says it's everyone's obligation to make the world a better place just for being it. How you do that is up to you. Go do, figure it out. I, yeah, ever since I came back from the dead, as it were, I became a purposeful person. Yeah, I'm here to make the world a better place. I wouldn't describe it as a particle of religious faith because I've always been grateful to Hebrew school for making me the atheist I am today. But yeah, but my culture, I'm very much a cultural Jew, and so yeah, I'm tied to that. It's nothing I can do.
Now, you have just two more things I want you to promote or plug or mention, talk of, discuss.
Go
How to
for it.
live bullshit free.
How to Live Bullshit Free is my blog, which I haven't done anything with for quite a while because all my time and effort has gone into podcasting.
Then I
And
didn't
so
mention it then.
but that's okay. But one of the things that one of the podcasts that I want to do in the future, in addition to this comedy podcast with you, Glenn, is I want to turn How to Live Bullshit Free into a podcast where, yeah, that's just where I go to rant. Because, How to Live Bullshit Free is important. And the reason I almost killed myself is because one of the reasons I thought was because my wife and my kids would be okay without me, that I
Right.
wouldn't fuck up their lives completely, that I wouldn't make a wreck of everyone. I I every reason that I had to hurt myself, to kill myself was bullshit. And it was based on the fact that I was blaming myself for something I did not do to me. I did not molest myself twice. And so it
Right.
was all bullshit. And so after I began to get better and I was able to look back at it and realize what I had almost done, it occurred to me that I had come within inches of nearly bullshitting myself to death, which
So
I thought was hilarious. I thought that was fucking hilarious. And
I like
so
I hate to see the cause of death right there. So
bullshit.
yeah, so medical
But
examiner, what was the exact cause of death? Bullshit. He bullshitted
yeah,
himself to death.
but hey, I would not have been the first person that bullshit murdered or killed or did something to. And so I vowed to try to, yes, that piece of bullshit had almost killed me, but I suddenly saw all the bullshit in my daily life that I had normalized. Oh, I'll sleep for another 5 minutes. I won't be late. Yes, you will. That's bullshit. All the little stuff and all the bullshit we accept from each other that after a while it becomes kind of toxic. So I began to write. Well, there's a book I wrote called How to Live Bullshit Free, A Practical Guide to Not Killing Yourself. I'm writing the last chapter. It's all written, but I'm living the last chapter because it's why you should not do that to yourself. I am the living proof because so much more life has been lived since then and I've gotten to meet and work with so many people. The thing that would happen to me quashed was my ability to have relationships. I had relationships with people, I had friends, but if you didn't know this secret about me, you didn't really know me. And so
Right.
nobody really got in the door. Well, I don't have that problem anymore. And I suddenly have these wonderful relationships with so many people, and they're, oh gosh, I yeah. And
Okay. So how do the
storytelling
bullshit?
is, yeah. So bullshit was interfering with all of that. And so, yeah, living bullshit free, I walk around in a perpetual state of bliss. Now, okay, look, the mood stabilizer does a little something, something, but that just keeps the darkness. That just keeps the darkness in a box where it can't get at me. That doesn't. I don't walk around happy because of that. My therapist perspective, the THC, all right, that calming effect on the hypomanic brain. But yeah, uh, I am keenly aware of the crazy fucking world I live in, but walk trying to live bullshit free
Mhm.
is very empowering because you're always, especially you got to don't worry about anyone else's. You got to start with your own. And
Right.
really, if you spend all your time dealing with yours, you won't have time to deal with anyone else's. But the more you deal with your own, you begin to, all right, I shouldn't do that, and I shouldn't do this, and I shouldn't do that. Your life begins to get easier and easier and easier.
Now, the one more thing, you have the donor podcast. I don't know how much time you want to dedicate to that, but I want people to be aware of what else you're doing out there other than just this show. You're contributing in lots of other ways, and you have your podcast because you actually found your niche in podcasting. And
I absolutely did. All right. So the donor, it was when I told my story of the making of Bordello of Blood, which was the catharsis I needed to tell. It was while I was telling that story, I really found I loved working in the podcasting medium as a way to tell personal stories. And after I did that first season, Entertainment Weekly called it first season of the How Not to Make a Movie podcast, the best film podcast of 2022.
yes,
And as I headed into the second season, which was less story and just more me having a conversation with other people, a friend that I grew up with approached me with the story he wanted to turn into a film or a TV show. And he told me the subject matter. I would have dissuaded him anyway because it's so hard to break in. Why spend years and years and years butting your head against the wall? As I was just discovering, do it via podcast because you can take it directly from your head to the audience as soon as you get it done. There's no one
yeah,
standing in your way but you. And the donor, my friend, worked his way through medical school in the mid 1980s as an anonymous sperm donor. Jump forward 27 years, he's a successful radiologist. He joins 23andMe, curious about his health genes. It never occurred to him the ramifications of adding his DNA to a growing DNA database. That's what 23andMe
right,
is. And he lost his donor anonymity. Suddenly, 7 total strangers found daddy, except 6 of them had no idea their actual biological father was this guy, a sperm donor. These were
right,
25, 26-year-old people discovering they weren't, half of them weren't who they thought they weren't who they thought they were.
right.
That, yeah, half of the personality that they thought came from this guy came from a stranger. And it was such an insane story. I have a taste for strange stories, Tales from the Crypt, The Outer Limits, all the stuff I've ever done.
Yeah,
But suddenly, here was a story that was true. I couldn't make this up. It was fucking bonkers. I mean, what happened as a result of this, I had never heard a story like this. I promise nobody listening to this has ever heard a story like this either. What happened to Hal with this family that he was kind of excited to have because He'd been married to a woman for 20 years who brought a son from a previous marriage, and he raised that son as his own, later adopted him as an adult, but he had never raised a biological child of his own. And while he wasn't going to raise these adults, and he wasn't going to be their father, they had someone who fathered them.
Right.
He was still very open to having a family kind of relationship with them as much as they wanted. Some of them, it was too hard. They felt really strange about the men who brought them up, those men that they did call father.
Right.
So that was kind of screwed up in a couple of relationships, but he was very open to having as much of a family relationship as they were open to. And it was the seventh, one of the daughters, who brought a thing called genetic sexual attraction to the table. It was like throwing a hand grenade into the circus tent. Genetic sexual attraction, the adoption community has known about for a while, has known all along. People who are genetically related but who are not brought up together, when they come together as adults, sometimes as siblings, they're meeting someone who they feel like they've known their whole life. This person, they laugh at the same things, they complete each other's sentences, they feel a connection to this person they've never felt with anyone before. And if there's
It almost feels like a soulmate.
Sexual spark, which sometimes there can be, because raised with the taboo, it's just oh, this is your sister, that's just a piece of information. They were not raised with any of the taboos, and there's studies that suggest, studies out of Israel, that people who were raised on kibbutzim, who they, until early pre-adolescence, they might be sexually, they might fool around with each other sexually, but once they go through adolescence, those people never got married, they never had sexual relations, because they felt the same sort of taboo that normal brothers and sisters feel toward each other, because of this this imprinting that they had being raised together. Well, as Barbara Gagne, the woman who coined the term genetic sexual attraction, discovered, she gave up a child at 16 for adoption, a son, and she met him 25 years later when he was 25, and she says she fell head over heels in love with him. And she would have had sex with him. He had strong feelings for her, but not sexual. She says she'd never felt anything like it. She couldn't, she knew intellectually what she knew, but the feelings were the feelings. And she coined the term genetic sexual attraction to describe this incredible feeling. Well, this daughter, she brought genetic sexual attraction to the table, and any possibility of having this family relationship, it exploded all over the place. It went haywire. And that's the story in 7 episodes of the Donor and DNA horror story about Hal. While I was doing the background research on Hal, I opened a door to a world I had no idea existed, the donor conceived world. One of the people who graciously agreed to give me background information, Donna Hall, she learned at 40 that she was donor conceived. Rocked her world. When Donna told me her story, I said, "You're a podcast unto yourself." And she agreed. Donna, that's another podcast that I just finished, The Hall Closet, 8 episodes at thehallcloset.com. Donna grew up in a lower tier crime family outside of Philadelphia in the 1980s and 90s. The Halls weren't the Corleones, but they made national headlines just the same. Donna's mom, Phyllis, maybe the worst mom ever. She spent 6 months in prison for child endangerment. Donna's stepfather, John Hall, a true master criminal, was the Philadelphia Police Department's favorite snitch. He put more than 25 people behind bars on bullshit confessions that he concocted to keep himself out of all the considerable legal jeopardy that he was in. Among the 25 people plus, actually, that he put away were his own stepson, Herb, who spent 18 months awaiting trial for a murder he did not commit. And John Hall also put a man named Walter Ogrod on death row in Pennsylvania for 24 years for a murder Walter did not commit. So Donna tells the story of what it was like growing up inside this lower tier crime family where the adults committed one crime or another virtually every day that she grew up. And she describes what it was like growing up in this environment. And she's a rock star storyteller. She does not an ounce of self-pity. She's very, very funny. And the thing that I think really puts it over the top, this first of all, it's true crime like you've never heard it before, granular level, told from the inside. But for Donna, it's also her voyage to safety, but most importantly, empowerment. And that's the Hall Closet. It's in 8 episodes. It is an amazing true crime story. It is. And I just started dropping another one, completely unrelated topic. The Sage Wellness Within podcast is all about traditional Chinese medicine that I'm doing with a physician of Chinese medicine, Dr. Andrea Thorpe, and she's amazing. Oh my God. Chinese medicine.
This is Sage, you say Sage Wellness Within?
Sage Wellness Within podcast, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. She's really good.
Cool.
So that's everything I'm doing right this second. And what else are you doing? Because there's me, but what are you doing right this second, Glenn? Where can people find you? Never mind me.
Okay, the best place to keep track of me is www.sogdfunny.com. That's my website, and because I have a few irons in the fire, and I'm on Coffee with the Dog Monday through Fridays. I do a weekly thing called Critical Joke Theory, which is basically headlines to punchlines. Although it's more snark than joke, but I just like the way Critical Joke Theory sounded because it's a play on critical race theory.
Oh, but it's right in your wheelhouse, man.
Yeah,
that's Critical Joke Theory. That sounds like it's a wonderful idea. There's so much to be done with that.
And so that's basically every week. That's basically I try to cover the news. I say try because I just revamped it in a sense because if I covered the news based on what's in the news all the time, only thing I would do would be talking about President Trump, pretends a lot Trump. And so I have a news section, and my last part, the editorial, I focus on trying to make a through line of what he's doing, not covering the minutia of everything he does, because you can't, because he contradicts himself. But I'm trying to show you the strategy of what he's trying to do. And basically, it's the same thing. Wreck it and rob it. They're trying to wreck the country so they can rob the country. But it's a different through line every week. So, it's that and do this.
It sounds awesome. It all sounds. Look, I'm a fan, man. I'm a fan. I'm such a fan. I want to be in business with you.
Well, we're gonna hash those things up. But the most important thing is the title. No, I'm just teasing. Well, actually, a title is important because it has to be easy for people to find and spell, and
And you got to be able to get the website.
Yeah, the website.
Those are problems for another conversation, Glenn, which we are going to have very shortly.
Yes. So
I can't thank you enough for doing my podcast.
I appreciate you having me on yours and you on mine. I appreciate this. This is the first time I've ever done this. So
me too.
If it seems kind of choppy, it should, because I've never been in these waters before.
And neither have I. And I cannot think of anyone else I'd rather share this boat with.
Ditto. And I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but like I said, I did not know you because I did not know the writer behind Tales from the Crypt, but I had been an admirer of yours long before I knew who you were. So, and now that I know that there's a face behind the stuff I admired, I told my wife I was going to try not to get gushy because okay, this is not one of those moments where I can say, the Crypt Keeper changed my life. That's not what happened. The Crypt Keeper gave me a voice to say things. It's like an alter ego, even though it wasn't mine. But I would say things in the Crypt Keeper's voice. I would imitate him. And it gave me license to say stuff that Glenn would never say to people. But if I could just go, just say it like the crypt keeper.
And
Hello.
everyone understood the difference between you and that character.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
he's so funny like that. So and yeah, and I do have a show on Sundays, Sunday morning, Eastern. It's called Church of Last Resort, where my character, the Dr. Reverend Jelly Roll, has a church service for 1 hour every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern, and basically, it's just him talking about the world. Or he has like I said, it's a churchy thing. He has the obituaries in the beginning of whoever died that week in the news. Um, and a sermon, which is based on usually what something else that happened in the news, but with his sardonic take on it. If I use sardonic correctly, did I use it,
You,
or you think he's
you
sardine?
did. Yes, yes, yes. That was
I know.
absolutely the proper use. You are a comedy renaissance person, Glenn. You are attacking on multiple fronts, and I'm going to put you on yet another front of attack. But just talking about just our mutual passion for comedy
Yeah.
and for how to make people laugh. Yeah, without feeling like an asshole.
Well, I know you've got something that you're about to do because you just texted them and said you will be a little late,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and we will. I said I will email you my phone. Actually, my phone number is actually at the bottom of the
Yeah,
email.
yeah, yeah. And
So
I'm
you can text me and we can talk in real
yeah,
time
yeah,
sometime.
yeah, yeah. And we're gonna find some time very like soon, soon, soon. Like I don't believe in wasting any time because I'm old. Every
Oh
day
yeah,
could be my last, for
yeah,
fuck's sake.
I'm in my
So
60s, so I don't.
I'm
I
60,
know I could be on borrowed time. I don't know.
I'm 66.
Oh, okay, we're about the same age. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that's one more thing to talk about. I feel like okay. This is how we'll go out. I feel like Bogey at the end of Casablanca. You know something, Glenn? I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Pull up, pull out. Thank you for coming, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.